Welcome back to the second and final segment of our show today. This is the Love Bug Show with me, Charity Gordons, and my guest in studio has been Mr. DERRICK Boondocks, who is talking to us about personal hygiene in a relationship. So Mr. DERRICK, before we went on a break, I was about to ask you about these people whom we call perfectionists, or rather these people with their mysophobia syndrome, somebody who is somehow too perfect when it comes to cleanliness. What will you tell us about that?
The perfectionist people. We say these people who are so super clean. Yeah, they are so into detail with specifics and everything that happens when it comes to hygiene. Sometimes those are things that are natural. We cannot avoid them. Yeah, so they occur in people naturally. But the only thing is it only comes when it starts affecting the other spouse, where you become so much into your details than you care about the relationship. Yeah, as much as we're talking about hygiene in a relationship, there are also boundaries that we usually have in a relationship, because everybody has limitations. And in relationships, it's about how you guys share what you have in terms of strengths and weaknesses. But when it comes to scenarios where one spouse is super perfect than the other, and then he wants to bulldoze these perfection syndromes to other, it's not okay. I believe, like I said earlier, communication is key, and whenever you realize there are limitations with other spouse when it comes to hygiene, you always need just to see on finding a common ground on how you can address these issues, rather than doing the bulldozing act.
So I'm still on the topic of perfectionists. Sometimes people believe that ladies are supposed to be more perfect than men. So as a professional, who is supposed to be more perfect than the other when it comes to a relationship? Is it the lady or is it the man?
I don't see any danger, and I've never bought into this theory that people say that ladies are the ones who are cleaner than men. It's just a perception that people have sold. Back then in our traditional setup, we used to say homes belong to women. Yeah, that's why it was very hard for people to assess the cleanliness of men. But generally, even in the personal outlook, men are usually clean, how they dress and how they carry out themselves. But people used to compare that cleanness to the house where people live, and because ladies are the ones who used to take care of homes, that's why they used to be considered to be very clean. But in natural aspects and in our current setup, both people are clean, because women start living on ourselves before we bring in the other spouse. And I don't think when this other spouse comes into your house, you find yourself dirty. He just finds the house clean. The only thing is just complements what is already existing there. So there is no harm of either of the spouse being super clean, because, and even if you are talking about what you're saying that ladies are the ones who are very clean, I believe it's a plus for a lady to find a guy who is clean, even if he's super clean, because most ladies don't like dirty men. So if you have a perfectionist clean guy, you should be celebrating. Yeah.
So as a professional, how would you advise somebody to talk to their partner about poor hygiene?
Poor hygiene. Okay. What I will say is, like generally in relationships, when people are in relationship and they have some communication issues or something they're supposed to put across, the formal way they usually approach all other issues they have in relationships is just the same way. As much as now this one is now scoped into personal hygiene, so it looks more trivial, but it's still the same thing. And also what I would think, because these guys have already agreed to be in a relationship, so I believe there's no better way of sugarcoating any communication rather than just being frank with the other. The only thing is you always try and make sure it doesn't come out as disrespectful and in bad taste. But what I usually know in a relationship, anything that one of the partners tells the other, it's always good for the relationship. So they just sit down and talk, as they usually do with other communications they make in a relationship.
What if it's the very hot-tempered kind of partner who gets angry over the very smallest of things? So how is he supposed to take up this?
There's always a possibility of one person taking the information very badly or the wrong way. But there are also better ways of passing information because, in communication, you always have to know the person you're speaking to more, the receiver of the message. How well do you convey this thing and what medium of communication you use? So generally, you use very many angles. For example, you can even use an angle whereby you try and use the demerits of being unhygienic to the person instead of just saying you are not clean, blah, 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 and stuff. But if you use other things, like probably the things you've seen that are hurting the person who is unhygienic as your basis of your information, then that one will work. Rather than just bashing the person and he doesn't see anything that is bad with it. But if, let's say, this person is becoming sick because of, let's say, probably is not bathing, or probably has bad odor and probably is always keeping people off from harm. So probably you can start with the negativities of this, and then you base your information on that.
Mm-hmm. Can hygiene break a relationship?
Yeah, sure, it can, because it depends with how these people either of the party takes the hygiene issue. And also it depends with how it has been, let's say, tolerated, and the other person has withstood it throughout the relationship or the marriage. Mm-hmm. And as this person tried communicating to the other, and the other person is not taking upon him or herself to bring a change. Mm-hmm. So if one of the parties is seeing nothing is happening, and this person who is unhygienic is not taking any positive steps towards becoming hygienic, the other party will probably say is becoming unbearable. Mm-hmm. And since we've talked about a perfectionist spouse in a relationship, or a perfectionist couple, we usually find one of the sides or one of the parties will get bored. Because remember, relationship needs to be healthy. Yes. And part of the healthiness is hygiene. So if hygiene is missing in this relationship, it becomes unbearable.
So when it comes to a relationship, we have a lot of sharing, be it sharing of food, sharing of things like beds, and sharing of clothes. So let's talk about sharing of clothes. As a professional, what will you tell us about sharing of clothes in a relationship?
In basic hygiene, we were taught, even in the basic educations we had in school, that there are items that are shareable and there are items that are not shareable. And generally, in general terms, it's not that okay to share, especially personal belongings. Yeah, like clothes, like combs, like toothbrush, like such like things, or bathing materials, even undergarments and stuff that people share. Like even in families, it happens where somebody has a cloth, pass it on to another person, like that. But mostly it's noted that most diseases, like let's say body diseases, are passed through sharing of these materials and stuff. So it's not health-wise or healthy. As much as you guys in a relationship, like most relationship nowadays, you should ask yourself, this person has been in a relationship with many people before he came to you. So if you've been sharing materials with all these people, and you know most things that cause disease are microorganisms, you get. So if one of the spouses has never been adhering to good personal hygiene, it's very highly likely that this person is going to transmit all these small diseases that's been carrying to the other spouse.
I'd like you to look at camera number 1. For the viewer who is watching you out there, please give them your final thoughts on personal hygiene in a relationship.
We've talked much about personal hygiene, but basically personal hygiene is something that is very important to a person, even when it's not about relationship, because it encompasses things to do with personal well-being, health, and also sanitation. So when you're not that clean, let's say the place you stay, the place you live in, how you dress, and how you carry out yourself, there are high chances you're going to acquire a lot of diseases. And you know, diseases, it comes with treatment and also sickness. So, and when you bring this into a relationship, it also creates some bit of conflict in the relationship, because there are very little chances where you'll find both spouses to be, or both couples in a relationship to be dirty. It's either one is clean and the other one is dirty. And one of them will always not be happy for the other one who is not clean. So it's very prudent for us to maintain higher standards of hygiene when in a relationship. And in case the other one is not clean or hygienic, we need to have a way of communicating and making each other come to a consensus.
Yeah, that was Mr. Derrick Boondocks, a brand strategist who has been talking to us about personal hygiene in a relationship. I hope you have learned some few things which you're supposed to do to keep good hygiene in a relationship. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of our show, but keep sending in your comments, questions, and feedback to the number on your screen. You can also find us on our social media platforms. On Facebook, we are at Champions TV fan page. On Instagram, we are at Champions TV Kenya. Our Twitter handle is at Champions TV Kenya, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Champions TV Kenya. Thank you so much for tuning in to Champions TV. This is where we empower people. I was your host, Charity Gordons. Until next time, it's bye-bye.